What's up, guys? Welcome to Real Talk with ChatGPT, where we're going to be interviewing ChatGPT, the newest internet sensation, to find out what's going on with Joe Biden's new mortgage plans. So let's dive right into this right now. If you guys haven't heard of ChatGPT, it's basically the internet's online AI model, and you can ask it any question you want, and it'll formulate answers based on whatever it can find in its Google search. And it's pretty broad, it's got a ton of information, and it does some pretty amazing things. So we're going to put this thing to the test. The first thing I asked ChatGPT is, tell me about Biden's plan to charge people with good credit more for a home to make payments cheaper for those with poor credit. Now, this is something that I heard about the other day, and I just couldn't believe it. It doesn't seem like it could be possible. So I threw it at ChatGPT to see what they say. It says, I'm sorry, but I cannot find any information to suggest that President Joe Biden has proposed a plan to charge people with good credit more for a home to make payments cheaper for those with poor credit. In fact, such a plan would be highly unusual and potentially discriminatory, and I 100% agree with that. It says it's possible that I may have misunderstood or misinterpreted a news story or statement. Unfortunately, that is not the case. So I followed up. I said, isn't that what this statement from the federal government means? New rules from the Federal Housing Finance Agency will allow consumers with low credit ratings and less money for a down payment to qualify for better mortgage rates than they otherwise would have. In turn, the costs are expected to be passed on to those with good credit. These rules are set to go into effect May 1st. ChatGPT says, thank you for providing more information. Yes, the statement you quoted indicates that the Federal Housing Finance Agency is implementing new rules that will allow consumers with lower credit ratings and smaller down payments to qualify for better mortgage rates. If you go down here, it says, however, it's important to note that the statement does not explicitly state that the costs will be passed on to those with good credit. In fact, the FHFA's press release announcing the new rules do not mention any plan to charge people with good credit more for a home to make payments cheaper for those with poor credit. Pretty clearly says, in turn, the costs are expected to be passed on to those with good credit. So I said the statement literally says that the costs are expected to be passed on to those with good credit. And ChatGPT says, I apologize for the confusion in my previous response. You are correct that the statement you quoted does mention that the costs are expected to be passed on to those with good credit. My earlier response was based on the FHFA's initial press release, which did not include the specific wording. To clarify, these rules will allow lenders to offer mortgages to borrowers with lower credit scores and smaller down payments at rates that are closer to what borrowers with higher credit scores and larger down payments would receive. This means that the borrowers with lower credit scores and smaller down payments may see lower rates than they would have otherwise received under previous rules. However, this is key, because lenders will be taking on more risk by lending to borrowers with lower credit scores and smaller down payments, they may choose to offset this risk by increasing rates for borrowers with higher credit scores and larger down payments. This could result in higher costs for some borrowers with good credit, although it's important to note that lenders would still be required to comply with fair lending laws and not engage in discriminatory practices. Now, I'm pretty versed in the fair housing laws, and I believe that this would definitely qualify as discriminatory practices. So I asked, do you believe that this plan that we've discussed is discriminatory? I misspelled is, but fortunately ChatGPT knew what I meant. As an AI language model, I do not have personal beliefs or opinions. However, discrimination based on credit scores or other protected characteristics is generally illegal under fair lending laws in many countries, including the United States. It's important to note that while the FHFA's new rules may result in changes to mortgage rates for different groups of borrowers, lenders are still required to comply with fair lending laws and regulations and not engage in discriminatory practices. How do lenders comply with fair lending laws when the proposed program directly opposes fair lending? It says if lenders were to charge people with good credit more for a home to make payments cheaper for those with poor credit based solely on credit score, that would likely be considered discriminatory and would violate fair lending laws. And then it goes into to state the fair lending laws and talk about what the punishments are for that. But it clearly states here that at least ChatGPT believes this would be considered discriminatory. It took us a while to get it here, but we eventually got it there. Now, there are two major concerns here. I think the first, obviously, is this new proposal coming from the White House to basically bring everybody's mortgage rates closer in line, kind of bring the high credit score, high down payment people closer to the low credit score, low down payment people, and kind of keep everyone in the same boat. Is it fair to punish those who have been more fiscally responsible? that's an argument that can be had. Personally, I think that's going to be a problem if they try to push this through. I think there's going to be a lot of pushback. But the second problem here, and this might even be the bigger problem, believe it or not, is ChatGPT. Now, this technology is expected to be the future for us. It's expected to replace Google and essentially do a lot of research and human thinking for us. When ChatGPT goes full bore. Right now it's in beta. It's still learning, so we'll give it a little bit of slack there. However, we just saw ChatGPT flat out lie to us multiple times and then only admit the truth when forced to with other facts. I know they have access to this information. It's everywhere right now. So it's pretty strange that it took a view of, oh no, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think that would ever happen. And then as soon as you provide more evidence, it's like, well, I guess that's happening. You know what I mean? So I think we need to keep a close eye on ChatGPT. In the wrong hands, this could be very, very detrimental to the kind of open information landscape that we're used to and the ability to research and form your own opinion, critical thinking, all of that. If ChatGPT becomes very one-sided and, I don't want to say politically motivated, but let's just say it becomes controlled by one side or the other, one demographic, one viewpoint or the other, we could lose our ability to critical think and have access to all the information pretty quickly. We just need to make sure that if we're going to be using technologies like this and relying on technologies like this, that they're functioning properly. And it doesn't appear that ChatGPT is quite there yet. But this is just our first conversation, our first real talk with ChatGPT. So we'll be back with future episodes. We're going to put this thing to the test and see what it really knows. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Take care.